Hi, my name is Mia. I will write this story to you because it is very difficult for me to speak now. I'm still recovering from the betrayal that my parents committed a few years ago. After this incident, I stopped talking. Literally, I was speechless. And only now I'm slowly coming to myself. It happened when I was 12. We were just a usual family. My parents earned as much as they could all their lives. We have no relatives in this city, so we relied on ourselves. Yes, life was difficult. And there were times when we only ate bread. The father and mother do everything they can, take any job. My father, in addition to his regular work, managed to be a porter in the evenings until late night, my mother as a cleaner, and I spent all my adult life with my grandmother. I can't say that I was happy with her. My grandmother was very grumpy. She was always yelling at everyone, at me and my parents. She often called her daughter, my mother, a badass and reproached for any action. Sometimes I would see my mom cry about it and my dad just get mad in silence. And everyone in the family was unhappy, but no one said it aloud. As for me, I went to school and tried to study well. Yes, I had A's in all subjects, but even the grades didn't lift my mother's spirits. It seemed to me that all the problems in the house were due to me alone. One day, there was hope for a better future. My parents were offered to go abroad to work. It would be all right, but I had to leave with my grandmother here. I couldn't believe they would decide that, knowing her character and how she felt about me. I was so offended that my fate was determined without asking me. My father and mother began to actively make documents and look for money. They hugged me goodbye and told me they would pick me up soon. I waited every day. All that's left is my mother's old jacket in the hall of the house. I went to her and hugged her, inhaled her mother's smell, but over time, it began to disappear. As expected, we found it difficult to get along with Granny. There was not even a day went by without shouts and reproaches at me. When I gave her glasses at the wrong time, she would get angry. "What took so long? Where are my glasses? You can't even do that! Left your parents, you on my neck!" Always shouted at me. At this point, I stood and listened to the reproaches, and when my grandmother fell asleep, I lay hugging my mother's jacket and crying. Every time someone rang the doorbell, I ran to answer it, hoping that they were my parents. But no, they weren't. I began to shut down into myself, slide through school, lost all my friends, went straight home after school. Otherwise, there was no avoiding screams. I talked less and less with people and kept more and more silent. Life with Granny was more like a dark mode. In the morning, getting up, cooking breakfast, going to school, then home, lunch, cooking dinner, lessons, going to bed. Every night before going to bed, I waited for a call from them. But before going to bed, as always, I hugged my mother's jacket. I took her to my room, so it seemed to me that they were close. A year passed. There was no call. I didn't know if they were still alive. My grandmother and I almost stopped communicating. She spends her days watching TV, and I was doing other jobs. The ritual with the jacket faded into the background, and I hung it in the closet and did not get it out. "They won't come back," Grandma once said. "It's been 5 years," she added, and stared at the TV again. It hurt to hear that, and I didn't want to believe it. They probably didn't call because they couldn't. But I knew for sure that very soon they would save up money and come for me as promised. We'll buy a small house no matter where, and the 3 of us will live together. We're family, aren't we? "Look, your mother!" My eyes widened in shock. My cup of tea fell from my hands to the floor, and my heart was pounding in my chest. My mother was on TV. She gave interviews to journalists about her success story. How she came as a migrant and opened her small business, a coffee shop in a foreign country. The press asked how far she had come and then asked if her family was helping her. "I don't have a family," she blurted out. At that moment, I felt as if I had been hit on the head. Grandma turned off the TV and laughed out loud. She laughed louder and louder, as if gloating. I ran out of the house, reached the neighbors of the street, sat down by a tree, and began to sob. Yes, I have so many questions over the years. But soon, I got answers. I just found this coffee shop on the internet, wrote down the phone numbers, and called. My mother was silent for a long time and then began to justify herself. She told how father cheated on her almost immediately after arriving. She kicked him out of the house and has not heard from him since. And she didn't call me because at first she didn't have money, then time. Everything so spun, and flew 5 years. She said that she missed me, that she wanted to take me home and start a good new life. "No, you didn't miss me," I told her and hung up. Those were my last words. She called a couple more times, but I didn't answer. I just took her jacket out of the closet and burned it. They betrayed me, both of them. A year later, I buried my grumpy grandmother. Well, then I heard rumors that they both started their own new families. My father never had the heart to talk to me. My mother came to settle the paperwork with my grandmother's house. By that time, I had already graduated from school and was working. My meeting with her was not at all what I had imagined in my head before all this. She felt ashamed and confused. She begged, fell on her knees, begged for forgiveness. I never said a word, and she left. Why couldn't I forgive her? You know, I could put it all down to the fact that she and father went away to earn money for me, to invest in my future, to make our life better. But this is not the case. They simply did not love me, each other. I realized that they really left to leave. Seizing on a small chance to start life again, they initially did not plan to return here for me, understanding in absentia that they would disperse. So it is not poverty or distance that destroys the family. It is the absence of love that destroys the family, and only that. So I never forgave her, and I never will, for not loving me. Hey, my name is Monica. I know firsthand what poverty is. We were so poor that we could not afford anything extra. A birthday celebration, for example, with a cake and gifts. But one day, everything changed. Or rather, we changed everything. There are 4 of us in the family: Dad, Mom, brother, and me. My parents worked as teachers, my father at the university, my mother at school. We lived modestly, but as our father said, honestly. He and my mother were very decent people and demanded the same from my brother and me. Dad is convinced that money earned by honest work is much more important than the other way around. We didn't complain, even though we were poor. Sometimes I envied some guys, which have big and beautiful house, dogs, pool in the yard, as have some of my classmates. Each of them had their own room. The girls went shopping. They often called me, but I refused, saying that I was not feeling well. I think they understood the real reason, though they didn't show it. I was very happy that they were all very good guys and did not look at the financial situation. My little brother always asked me what my dream was, and I said I wanted to grow up and get a good job so I could earn a decent living. And I also wanted to send him to a talent show. By the way, did I tell you that my little brother Michael can sing really well? We asked him almost every night to sing us something after dinner. Michael especially loved the classics and always wanted to participate in a talent show. Once he even took a camera from his friend, recorded the video there, and sent it to that program. He passed the selection. He was invited to come to participate, but we were poor, so there was no money for the trip. I was proud of him and wanted to help with all my heart, so I started knitting children's clothes and selling them online, but I didn't have enough money to go half the way. One evening, we all got together again after dinner. Dinner was beans and broccoli again. I hated them. They were rather boring, but they were cheap products and, as my mother liked to say, useful. I watched as we ate small portions, that is, with maximum economy. The table seemed almost empty. Traditionally, after everyone had eaten, Mikey sang us another song. You should have heard him sing sensuously. He closes his eyes and feels the song. Michael always sings with soul, and it was magic. He loved to sing more than anything in the world. My mother said dreamily that if he had been on a talent show, he would have won. After loud applause, the parents discussed the news of the day, told each other funny stories with students, and then Dad said that today one of them did not prepare for an important exam in his subject and could not pass the test. His father sent him for a retake and told him to come back in a week. And the student said that this test was the last, and in a week he had to fly to Europe for a vacation. He said that if he did not pass the exam well, his parents would not let him go on vacation, and this was the dream of his life. I told him to prepare better, and he said, "You see, he doesn't have time for this." And then he takes out his wallet and asks, "How much?" I didn't understand what it was about, and then I saw that he was offering me a bribe. "Can you imagine?" my father said. Then, according to him, he escorted this insolent student out of the door and told him not to approach him with such a proposal again. Then he began to lament that now students have become quite lazy, that it is easier for them to buy everything with someone else's money. I will say right away, I shared my father's opinion about honest earnings, fully supported their point of view, but today when I looked at our modest dinner in a different way, at my brother who again pleased us with his favorite song, something turned me over. It's like I don't want to put up with what we have anymore. I could feel my anger rising. Maybe at least once in your life you should take a bribe so that at least your son will fulfill his dream and get on with this show, I blurted out to my father. My parents were taken aback by my audacity to say such a thing, and by the fact that such a thing had occurred to me. The indignant father got up from the table and said that he was ashamed of such a daughter. I, of course, burst into tears at these words and went out into the street with a madman, slammed the door, and roared on. At this moment, my classmate Nick was passing by and he asked what was wrong. I didn't want to tell. I was embarrassed to share my problems with someone. Even though we'd been friends since elementary school, I'd never shared anything like this with him. But he sat next to me for a long time until I calmed down, and then finally got me to talk to him. Nick called me stupid for not asking for help and offered to make money by hosting a concert with my brother. Let him use his talent and earn his way to another city and participate in the show, suggested Nick. The idea was quite simple, but we needed the help of other guys to do it. Nick, as promised, took care of everything and classmates also helped. A few days later, a music concert was held at the huge mansion of Nick's cousin, Sarah, to raise funds for Mikey. My generous classmates helped organize a mini stage, make cool lighting, a buffet for guests, and seating. It was like a dream. I couldn't believe it was really happening. Michael, when he heard this news, was very happy. He prepared a whole repertoire for the evening, took his favorite guitar, and went out to sing. I watched the reaction of people. It seems that he managed to involve the guests in his special mood. At the end, everyone gave a standing ovation. Our parents also came there, of course. My father wanted to apologize for the fact that his life principles made the family starve. "I will not take dishonest money, but I can give private lessons, thereby earning more," he said and hugged me. My father finally realized that the principles of life are important, but we must not allow people to live only by them, to please themselves and to the detriment of others. That was enough. I was happy. Well, it's been about a month since then. My father and I hurriedly cooked steaks for dinner while I washed fruit and made salad. On this day, we had a special occasion. We were waiting for Mom and Mikey. They were about to arrive from New York. Oh yes, you don't know. Mikey won the talent show.